The fragile peace in the Democratic Republic of Congo has been shattered. Fighting has resumed in the volatile South Kivu province between the Congolese army and the M23 rebel group. This latest outbreak of violence comes just days after a ceasefire was agreed upon at an East and Southern African Leaders Summit. Heavy shelling was reported near the town of Ihusi, approximately 70 kilometers from Bukavu, the capital of South Kivu. The recent clashes are part of a larger conflict that has plagued the DRC for decades. The M23, a predominantly Tutsi rebel group, emerged in 2012. They briefly captured Goma, the largest city in eastern DRC, before being driven back by government forces and a UN intervention brigade. The Congolese government accuses Rwanda of backing the M23, a claim Rwanda denies. The UN has also expressed concern over Rwanda's alleged role in the conflict. The international community has condemned the renewed violence and called for all parties to respect the ceasefire. The UN Security Council issued a statement urging restraint and dialogue. Regional leaders have also expressed their concern and called for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The breakdown of the ceasefire is a major setback for peace efforts in the DRC. The M23's advance in eastern DRC is a cause for serious concern, not only for the DRC itself but also for the wider region. The group's capture of Goma in 2012 demonstrated its ability to seize and hold territory. Their current offensive threatens to further destabilize an already volatile region. The M23 has gained ground in recent months, capturing several key towns and strategic locations. This advance has displaced thousands of civilians and raised fears of a wider humanitarian crisis. The group's motives remain unclear, but they claim to be fighting for the rights of Congolese Tutsis, who, they say, face discrimination. The Congolese government and UN experts accuse the M23 of being a proxy force for Rwanda, which denies any involvement. The M23's resurgence is a symptom of the deep-rooted problems that have plagued eastern DRC for decades. The region is rich in mineral resources, but these have often been a source of conflict rather than prosperity. Armed groups, both domestic and foreign, have exploited the region's mineral wealth to fund their activities. As the conflict in eastern DRC escalates, so too does the humanitarian crisis. Hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced from their homes, forced to flee the fighting and seek refuge in overcrowded and undersupplied camps. The United Nations estimates that over 700,000 people have been displaced since the beginning of the year, adding to the millions already displaced by previous rounds of conflict. Displacement camps are struggling to cope with the influx of new arrivals. There are shortages of food, water, shelter, and medical supplies. The fighting has also disrupted farming and trade, exacerbating food insecurity in the region. Many people are struggling to feed themselves and their families. The World Food Programme has warned of a looming hunger crisis if the conflict continues. The international community has pledged millions of dollars in aid, but much more is needed to meet the growing needs. Delivering aid is challenging and dangerous in a conflict zone. Section 4. Roots of conflict, historical grievances and resource exploitation. The current conflict in eastern DRC is the latest chapter in a long and troubled history. The region has been plagued by violence and instability for decades, rooted in a complex web of historical grievances, ethnic tensions, weak governance and competition for resources. One of the key drivers of conflict is the legacy of the Rwandan genocide in 1994. Following the genocide, millions of Rwandans, including those responsible for the killings, fled across the border into eastern DRC. The presence of these armed groups, some of which were supported by neighboring countries, destabilized eastern DRC and fueled ethnic tensions. The DRC is rich in mineral resources, including gold, diamonds, coltan, and cobalt. Section 5. The shadow of Rwanda allegations and denials. Rwanda's role in the DRC conflict has sparked controversy and tension. The Rwandan government denies supporting M23 rebels, calling accusations baseless. The UN and Western governments present evidence of Rwandan military support. These allegations strain Rwanda-DRC relations, with mutual accusations of backing armed groups. Post-genocide, many perpetrators fled to eastern DRC. prompting Rwandan interventions. Critics argue these interventions worsen the conflict and instability. The international community urges Rwanda to help resolve the conflict. Establishing trust is crucial for lasting peace in the region.